Hi, I'm so grateful to be contributing a bit to Christine's course. I'm Barry Jung, and I'm a third-generation Canadian. My family origin is from Canton, China. My wife and I, we live, work, play, and we garden on the unceded land of the Musqueam people, more commonly known as Vancouver. We've lived in this South Cambie neighborhood, which is just outside the downtown core, since 2002, where there's a lot of changes occurring. My interest in gardening was initially driven by concerns about pesticides on the produce we bought from the supermarket. I built my first garden box about 10 years ago in our backyard as an experiment to grow food for my family. One garden bed soon became two, and now we have overtaken most of our backyard lawn with about 9 raised beds. I became inspired by TED Talks from Ron Finley, a guerrilla gardener in Los Angeles, and Pam Warhurst, an environmental activist initiating edible landscapes in her town situated in northern England. In 2013, I started to build a garden box in the front yard to connect with neighbors. It was a prompting from God. And so this exposed me to neighbors and to the many strangers who walked past our home. And it was awkward gardening out front for me. I'm a bit of an introvert. But soon I realized that it was a subversive act to plant and tend to a garden along one of the busiest traffic arteries and in a neighborhood landscape with mostly neat lawns and hedges. The garden was a statement of our rootedness and a desire for placemaking in a neighborhood where land developers were buying homes and replacing them with expensive condos. In more recent years, gardening became more integrated with my faith as I reflected on the many metaphors of gardening in the Bible. I had the opportunity to take a popular course at Regent College, which was so impactful that along with other factors in my life, I made a decision to leave my work in technology, and I entered a transitional period of discernment which allowed me more margin to focus on gardening and neighboring. Every time I plant seeds into the soil, I get excited about the germination. It's a miracle and wonders to me how a seed the size of a pinhead can transform just after a few days of water and warmth into something that is living and gives sustenance, beauty, life to insects, other animals, really all of creation. I'm not often conscious of it, but I do lose myself in both the physical and serene aspects of gardening. From planting the seeds with such divine purpose, beauty, and design, to a meditative posture and focus in transplanting seedlings, and to physically getting down to the soil. Gardening is an embodied practice of being present with the diversity, beauty, and abundance of creation. And to me, this all points to God. It's the ordinary task of sowing seeds, observing their growth, watering, tending attentively to the garden that grounds me and quote unquote brings me down to earth. Down to earth, which is an idiom that's so profound in the context of a garden. I feel I'm being returned or reminded of the ground or the soil. This word in Hebrew, Adama, which God breathed into to form the first human. It's a vocation of humility. In humility, from the Latin word humus, which also gives the word human. To return to the soil is to be human. And so a further reflection is that most of our kitchen scraps and cuttings and the decay from the garden go into a compost bin. And eventually that is transformed. And this reminds me of how Jesus takes the scraps and feeds the thousands. I consider how vital the soil, the compost, has contributed to the multitude of meals at our table and to those in our neighborhood. A friend who shared this poem with me last week speaks of this vital element in gardening.
In October of 2001, God spoke to me and said, I am like the soil. How? How like the soil? Ubiquitous. I am everywhere and not noteworthy. The essential reality that is unnoticed. Foundational. Not a step is taken, a building erected, nor a plant rooted without my presence. Secretive. In me are hidden all the seeds of faith ever planted, all the growth that takes place unseen until it is ready to be exposed and tested. Nourishing. As every plant on the earth draws up vital nourishment from the soil, so every life takes from that which my life supplies. Transforming. When dead things decompose, the soil transforms its putrid materials into living or life-giving ones. This is my power. Cleansing. Dirty water runs through the soil and sand and is purified. I purify even the vilest. I am like the soil.
We've shared garlic, apples, and many vegetables and flowers with our neighbors. And we've gathered neighbors around our front yard to share in the food and listen to live music. And it's in these simple acts of kindness and hospitality to our neighbors and strangers that I think we're loving God. And it's our neighbors that have been reaching out to us as we become present, or remain present in tending to our gardens. There are beautiful lilies out on the boulevard honoring the legacy of Arcady, who died last year at 102. He gifted us with 3 bulbs to plant in our garden 7 years ago. And we received many notes of gratitude placed in our library from many strangers and neighbors, including one stranger in particular that was signed Melissa. Her writing was deliberate and honest and intentional, sharing of her despair in a state of homelessness and drug addiction. God reaches out to us through Melissa, who writes, P.S. Your garden is also lovely. You're my kind of people. So this garden out front is sacred. It's our neighbors who are made in the image of God. They are forming me. So even in this time of pandemic, we find creative ways to continue connection with our neighbors. And in doing so, they bless us so much more. I will continue to plant more gardens. There's an expectancy when you plant a garden. Seeds that are sown will germinate, and the plants will grow into flowers, into trees, into food, which all will provide us with beauty, fragrance, nourishment. But the growth and the transformation of plants is all in God's hand. I'll be present, tending to the garden,